Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. So today we're going to be looking at what makes human culture so unique and so powerful. And we have this really cool article here from Arizona State University. It was just published on November 10th, 2024 in Nature Human Behavior. And basically it tackles this question. If animals have cultures and those cultures evolve, what sets human culture apart? You know, I always just assumed, like growing up, I just always assumed that culture was a human thing.
Yeah, it's a common assumption.
Yeah.
A lot of us have. And it's interesting because research is really showing that animal culture is way more complex than we maybe once thought.
Yeah, the article gives some pretty wild examples, like leafcutter ants. You know those tiny little guys that carry fungus around? It's like their family heirloom. And they've passed it down and it's evolved over time within their colonies. Then you've got humpback whales with their songs. You know, they change their songs and they spread. It's almost like they have like regional dialects that are evolving under the sea.
Yeah, it really makes you rethink this idea that culture is only for humans. You know, these animal cultures, they're not just instinct. They're adapting in some pretty surprising and complex ways.
It really does bust some myths. I mean, we've always known that chimpanzees use tools, but this article is talking about how they might have been doing this for thousands, even millions of years.
Wow.
Which throws the whole, like, tool use is uniquely human idea right out the window.
Yeah.
So if animals have cultures and these cultures evolve, what makes us humans different?
Well, the article proposes this really interesting concept of open-endedness. And this is the key differentiator. It's the human ability to conceive of and to communicate. A seemingly endless number of possibilities.
Okay.
Our brains just don't seem to hit a limit in the way that other species do.
I'm trying to picture this. Like, how does this actually work?
So think about something like making breakfast.
Okay.
You've got your equipment, you've got your ingredients, the steps involved, the cooking time, serving. It's all a multi-step process with steps within steps. And humans can grasp these sequences, but we can also build on them and make them incredibly elaborate. The article uses this analogy to illustrate open-endedness.
So it's like human culture is a recipe with infinite variation.
Precisely. Open-endedness allows human knowledge and behavior to constantly accumulate and to innovate. There's really no ceiling to how complex things can become.
That's wild. That's really amazing. And it's cool because the researchers didn't just compare human culture to animals. They also looked at things like epigenetics.
Yeah.
You know, like those locusts that can change from like calm and green to like swarming black and yellow depending on like their population density. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, epigenetics is essentially how behaviors and traits can be modified by environmental factors, sometimes even across generations. So imagine if we as humans could change our physical traits based on how crowded a city gets.
Whoa.
That's kind of what epigenetics is doing for these locusts.
That's really wild.
It is. And while these systems like epigenetics and parental effects, they show this impressive capacity for change, they do eventually hit a limit.
Okay. So unlike animal cultures, or even biological mechanisms like epigenetics, human culture doesn't just accumulate. It's boundless. It's always pushing further. This open-endedness truly sets us apart.
It does.
I'm already starting to see why this is such a big deal. So where do we go from here? Like, what does this boundless potential really mean for us?
That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to be unpacking in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay, I can't wait. Okay, so we've established this idea of human culture being open-ended, meaning it can constantly kind of build upon itself, create new possibilities. But what does that actually look like in practice?
It's a truly mind-boggling concept. I mean, think about the trajectory of human history.
Okay.
You know, we went from banging rocks together to make fire to harnessing the power of the atom. And now we're exploring artificial intelligence and manipulating the very building blocks of life.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how far we've come.
It really is.
It makes you wonder where we'll go next. I mean, if this open-endedness means there's no limit to our progress, what might the future hold?
That's the million-dollar question. And because of this open-endedness, the possibilities are practically limitless.
Okay.
I mean, just imagine you could solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, climate change, poverty, disease. We could create entirely new art forms, explore the vastness of space, even unlock the secrets of consciousness itself.
Wow, now that you mention it, it's almost overwhelming to consider all the potential paths.
It is. But remember, open-endedness isn't inherently good or bad. It's a neutral force. The direction it takes us depends entirely on the choices that we make. It's up to us to steer this boundless cultural evolution in a positive direction.
That makes sense. So how do we do that? How do we ensure that all this amazing potential leads to a future we actually want?
One crucial aspect, I think, is diversity. The more diverse our cultural landscape is, the richer the soil for innovation and creativity.
Oh, that's interesting. You know, I've always thought of diversity as important for social justice reasons, but are you saying that it's actually essential for maximizing our collective potential as a species?
Absolutely. Open-endedness thrives on this cross-pollination of, it needs that clash of perspectives, the challenge to conventional thinking that diverse viewpoints bring. When we limit ourselves to a narrow range of ideas, we stifle creativity and we limit the possibilities for growth. Open-endedness really demands that we embrace the full spectrum of human experience.
I never thought about it that way. So fostering diversity, it isn't just the right thing to do. It's actually crucial for unlocking our full potential as a species.
I think that's a great way to put it. And with this open-endedness, there's really no telling what we might create. Imagine a future where technology allows us to seamlessly interface with nature.
Okay.
Blowing the lines between the artificial and the organic.
Wait, are you talking about like being able to communicate with plants and animals? Or even like merging with technology?
Perhaps. It might sound far-fetched now, but with open-endedness, even the seemingly impossible could become reality. We could see entirely new forms of intelligence emerge, hybrid beings that transcend the boundaries of our current understanding. And this could have profound implications for how we live, how we work, how we create, how we relate to one another.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. I mean, this whole concept of open-endedness really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about human potential. But I have to admit, it's also a bit daunting. I mean, if all the rules are being rewritten, where do we even begin?
It's true. Open-endedness challenges us to let go of these preconceived notions, to embrace the unknown, and to become comfortable with ambiguity. But that's also what makes it so exciting. It's an invitation to become explorers, not just of the physical world, but also of the vast uncharted territories of the mind and imagination.
I love that. It's like we're all part of this grand evolving story, and we each have a role to play in shaping its direction. But before we get too carried away, with all these exciting possibilities, how do we translate this big abstract idea of open-endedness into concrete actions that we can take in our everyday lives?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we'll explore in the final part of this deep dive. We'll look at some practical ways to embrace open-endedness and cultivate a mindset that fosters innovation, creativity, and positive change.
Okay, I am ready. All right, so welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into open-endedness. We've talked about the incredible potential of human culture, how it's constantly evolving and pushing boundaries, but now let's get down to like the brass tacks. How do we actually live this idea of open-endedness in our everyday lives?
That's the question, isn't it? Open-endedness might sound abstract, but really it boils down to our individual actions and choices. We're all part of this grand cultural experiment, and we each have a role to play.
So where do we even begin? Like, what are some concrete steps we can take?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity and continuous learning. Open-endedness thrives on this. Insatiable desire to explore, to question, to push beyond the limits of what we already know.
So never lose that childlike sense of wonder, always wanting to learn new things and discover new things.
Exactly. Read widely. Engage in conversations that challenge your thinking. Travel to new places. Try new things. Be a lifelong student.
And I imagine that learning doesn't have to be a solitary endeavor.
Absolutely not. It's a collaborative process. Share your ideas. Be open to feedback. And be willing to change your mind. Remember how we talked about the importance of diversity? Engage with people from different backgrounds, with different perspectives. It's through those interactions and that exchange of ideas that we can truly expand our understanding.
So it's not just about expanding our own knowledge. It's also about creating those spaces where different voices can be heard and where they can be valued.
Precisely. And remember, open-endedness. It's not limited to these intellectual pursuits. It's about creativity in all its forms. Art, music, dance, writing, cooking, anything that you're passionate about. Don't be afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, and try new things.
So expressing ourselves, taking risks and pushing those creative boundaries.
Exactly. And share your creations. Inspire others and contribute to that culture of innovation.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. But before we wrap up, I can't help but think back to the ethical challenges that we discussed earlier. How do we make sure that this open-endedness leads us towards a positive future.
That's where critical thinking
Yeah.
and ethical reflection really come in. As we unlock these new possibilities,
Yeah.
we need to carefully consider the potential consequences of our actions. We have a responsibility to ensure that our innovations are aligned with our values and that they contribute to a better world.
So it's not just about can we do something, it's about should we do it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We need to engage in this thoughtful dialogue, weigh the potential benefits and risks, and make conscious choices that steer us in the right direction.
This whole concept of open-endedness, it's really inspiring. It's a call to action for all of us to embrace our potential and to shape the future that we want to see.
That's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that we're all part of this incredible journey of human cultural evolution, and what a privilege it is to be a part of it.
So to sum it all up for our listeners, what is the one key takeaway you want them to remember from this deep dive?
I'd say embrace your curiosity, seek out new perspectives, unleash your creativity, and act with wisdom and compassion. The future is ours to create.
What a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of open-ended human culture. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating a human